What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. And this week we are joined by one of the most well-known and legendary coaches in the HVAC game, and he is bound and determined to lead this industry better than he found it. Let's get it, y'all. What's up, trade crew? Welcome back to HVACR&D, the voice of contractors, distributors, manufacturers, and everyone working to move the skilled trades forward. Around here, we believe the best conversations don't just make us better tradespeople, they make us better leaders, better teammates, better business owners, and better people. And that's what HVACR&D is all about. Before we jump in, make sure you're subscribed to the HVACR&D podcast and the Ramblin' Rhino newsletter on Substack so that you never miss a new podcast episode, article drop, or industry insight. While you're there, check out the HVACR&D Resource Hub, packed with trusted tools, products, and resources for both your business and your life outside of the trades. A huge thank you to our partners Diversitech and LiveSwitch, and welcome to FieldMind for helping make these conversations possible. If your company is looking to connect with thousands of engaged tradespeople and industry leaders across contracting, distribution, and manufacturing every month, HVACR&D offers strategic sponsorships and custom partnerships across our growing media network, including the podcast, Ramblin' Rhino newsletter, Resource Hub, website, and all of social media. Visit HVACRD.com, fill out the contact form, or reach out through any of our social media channels to learn how HVACR&D can help put your brand in front of the trade crew. Now turn up the volume and let's get into another great conversation right here on HVACR&D. So what's up, trade crew? Welcome back to the HVACR&D podcast, and today's guest is Don Gillis, recognized HVACR educator, trainer, industry advocate, and with more than 35 years of experience in the trade. Don began his career in the field, spending over 25 years as an installer, service technician, service manager, and then later as a territory sales manager before moving into national training roles with companies like Copeland and Chemours and Hardy. Along the way, he earned his HVAC journeyman license under the International Mechanical Code and has gone on to train thousands of technicians, distributors, OEM partners, and instructors across North America. As a senior technical trainer and national speaker, Don reaches between 5,000 to 7,000 HVAC professionals every year through hands-on real-world education. In 2024, he was recognized as one of the INSCO top 25 most influential HVAC educators in the industry. And today, through his new company, Gillis Coach, Don continues to push his mission of helping technicians grow, reducing mistakes, building confidence, and ultimately leaving the industry better than he found it. So, Don, thank you for your time today. I'm very excited to dig into this conversation, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it immensely. This is awesome.
I know we spoke some as we started getting this going, but I really, in the beginning, I like to kind of take people back and let them know who Don Gillis is, back to the beginning of how you got into HVAC. So how did you stumble upon our wonderful trade?
Yeah. So I'm the first generation. So around where I'm at, I'm in a small little area in Ohio. I'm about 45 minutes from Fort Wayne. That's where I'm licensed at, and that's where I commuted for 25 years, basically. And my son actually owns a business over there now, too. He's been jumping the truck. But where it all started is just a couple blocks from my house. It's a very agriculture area here where I'm at, the farmland. I live in a town of about 4,500 people, if that. And I've lived here my whole life, but basically very good work ethics, a lot of factories. Some of the factories were the first ones in the globe. Crown lifts, Huffy bicycles, those kind of things all start out here. I mean, I could go on and on. So you grew up either being a factory worker or a farmer, basically, is what you had choices of, unless you ran your own business and sold insurance or something like that. So long story short is Huffy's went away, closed the plant down. The factory that I worked at was a farm manufacturer of tractors and manure spreaders and those kind of things. And it's been around for 100 years and they closed their doors. So there's two factories there that had one of them had over 2,000, one of them just under 2,000. So we were hurting. I think Ohio was the number one state for unemployment, and our county was the number one unemployment in the state. So it wasn't good. So back when we used to read newspapers, I answered this little ad about 30 miles from me at a little mom and pop's Lennox dealership, and I knew nothing about anything. I couldn't even wire an outlet. I paid for everything done in my house. So they hired me, thank goodness, and I got insurance, and they gave me a uniform, and I became a helper, basically picking up, cleaning up job sites and carrying other people's tools for the first year or so. And they saw something in me. Well, let me back up. When I saw that I could possibly do it, because I wasn't sure, I'd never worked out in the elements before. So I don't know. When I see guys and girls out in their Carhartts years before that, out there in freezing weather, I thought, how do they do that? So I was a little cautious on, am I going to be a good fit here, you know? And so after about 2 months, I realized I can do this. It's not that hard, and actually it's enjoyable. I see something different every day. So I put myself through school 3 days a week at a vocational school nearby. So I was working full time, going to school 3 nights a week, and getting my first of many refrigeration classes under my belt. I think it was only a 6-month course or whatever. But so then they decided they thought they could invest a little more in me. So they made me a lead, and I did that in probably about 13 months or so. And then you know how big of a deal it is when you get your own take-home van. So that's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
raise back then, or even now, I guess. And so I got my van. I got a van. I was very proud of that. And then I basically was an installer for most of everything. I would look over the shoulders of the technic, or the service techs, if you will. And little by little, when you know how they start you out, you get out and start doing preventive maintenance. Well, there was times that I would be out there doing preventive maintenance, and something would be down. Somebody would come on the roof and say, "Hey, that unit's down." You know, so now you're on your Nextel or whatever it was back then. I started before there was even pagers. You know, then tech support or your lead guy, service manager, if you will, would start walking you through things. So you started slowly learning that. You know how it goes. The
Oh,
whole
yeah.
industry is. So there's a stepping process there. So I went out and got my journeyman's. I took my journeyman's license, and over in Fort Wayne again, where I'm still licensed at under the International Mechanical Codes. That's been years and years ago, over 20 some years ago. But I took that and I passed it, and then someone came from another company on a job site and said, "Hey, we're gonna open up a service department. We want to beef it up." They were doing probably 100, 200 houses, homes a year, and some commercial stuff and multi housing, and they just never really focused on, after that 1 year warranty was up, you know, hey, we really don't want your business. We don't have time for it. So they wanted to start taking advantage of that. So they brought me in, basically a blank canvas, and I started building up. I knew nothing of what I was doing. I went to a lot of training courses, big names of people I actually know now, of like, you know, what to do and what not to do, customer service stuff and soft skills and things like that, which I always had pretty good. You know, you either have good soft skills or you don't, basically. But anyways, I had a dream of getting all these service agreements. They had one, and it was a church, and it was a relationship of the owner, to make the long story short. By the time I left, it wasn't an amazing amount, but it was just under 600 service agreements. And that was we didn't do a lot of marketing. We didn't have a lot of funding. I had a certain amount. So it was really by word of mouth, and word of mouth was good. I, like you, after talking with you at the beginning of the thing, I'm all about the person, the customer. I'm all about, you know, making things better. In fact, the only backlash I got of that was when we started to grow, we had to keep adding service technicians. And true story, and anybody that's ever been in this situation can relate. I know everybody out there can relate that's ever run service. But then I couldn't run all the calls. So then we started getting calls wanting me on the phone, asking me, "Hey, when I signed the service agreement, I thought you were the one to be coming out." Because, you know, you build trust up with them, right?
Yep. Yep.
They give you your garage number, they give you the key, and that takes a little while to do that, you know, and people like to do business with people they trust, right? So, and it's the same way in sales on any level. But we got through that, and, you know, sometimes I'd have to go out and kind of connect the dots and, you know, introduce each other and stuff like that, but it all worked out. And, so then I was getting burnt out. I was almost 400 pounds. I was smoking. I was drinking, not crazy, but, you know, it was just never ending. A funny story is I've got a jungle house now. I mean, my garden is unbelievable. We moved in years ago and didn't even have one tree. I've got 17 trees now. And I've actually either asked me or my wife to take wedding pictures in our garden. And where that stems from is I was so stressed out from working so many hours and getting calls in the middle of the night, and just people not answering their phones on call, service technicians. So my wife and I would jump in the truck and just run a call on 4th of July or 2 or 3. So I started growing things. I started put bushes and flowers in, and I don't ask me why.
There's
you know,
something
it's
about
putting your hands in the ground.
that, but also just cultivating something that kind of gives you. You have to be patient with it. I know
Yes,
it's ironic you said that. My wife and I just started. We've had our house about 3 years. We just started a couple of raised beds earlier this spring, and it's been something that we've really enjoyed, and we never realized we would enjoy it. But it's just, you watch it grow and you water it and you just do those little things, and it's a huge stress reliever. It really can
it,
be.
it's peaceful. You just kind of hit the nail on the head. I would go out in the morning drinking my coffee all by myself, and the sun was barely up, and I'd just be watering things, and I became addicted to it. I'm not even joking. I'd be out there. Everybody would walk by, go, "Don't you ever stop working?" And it wasn't work to me. You know what I mean? It's like what I do now. I'm not really working. I love what I do, but
Yep.
I'd be out there with the wheelbarrow going from one direction to the other all the time with mulch or whatever. And my wife didn't like it. So why are we going to go? Is all we're going to do all the weekend is work or whatever? And I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And you don't have to. But anyways, she started following me around and started taking her look. Now she owns it, is where I'm going with this at. For the last 5 years, I've done really nothing in the garden. It looks beautiful. She calls me the architect. But by doing that, it calmed me down. I found balance. And so getting back to the reinventing myself, I'm very loyal. So my wife tells everyone, which is true. It took me 3 years to get my 2 weeks notice because I hate leaving people. I'm
I
old school,
understand that.
where everybody didn't jump around, but got into outside sales. We were talking earlier about what your role is, and didn't know if I was going to like it. I did it for about 3 years and was pretty decent at it. And then Emerson called. A friend of mine worked over there and said, "Hey, we got this gig going on, this position, and I think you'd be perfect for it. You always like training people, and I've seen you do training, on a smaller scale, but this is 36, 40 weeks a year in the air, covering all of North America." And I ran it by my wife, and she said, "Sure. I mean, we're empty nesters, and you're never home now, anyways, in this sales position," which I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I took the job, and it just from there on, it just took off like a jet. Tore compressors all around North America down. I basic fundamentals. I taught CO2 transcritical, propane, A2Ls. I was already teaching at Emerson, and just everything in between. You know how it goes. All the things we talk about in refrigeration, but I primarily refrigeration, some air conditioning, but supermarket courses. Then Chemours reached out when they saw this A2L thing coming down, because obviously they were the inventors of 454B, and they were concerned about the fear of working with something different than what they had before. So they reached out to me and asked me if I had any interest. And at first I wasn't. We started talking, but anyways, I ended up taking the job there, and that was a blank canvas because there was no educational services there. So now I wasn't just tweaking what was already there. I was building it all up. And so
Yep.
my first job there was to get with the OEMs. I was to train the OEMs, the engineers, the sales staffs, which I did. Can't think of any OEM I wasn't on a call like we are right now, teaching them at the very beginning. I'm talking about the very, very beginning. And then I went to the distributors, and then I went to the contractors, and we were hitting numbers. I mean, like you said earlier about my bio, I mean, I was the first 2 years at Chemours, it was over 6,500. It was close to 7,000 one year. And they were moving the locations like 2 or 3 times. Like it would start out at 50 and, hey, now we got 100 signed up. Now we got this. And I mean, one of the memories I have, I went to Cleveland, and it was 186 people, and they put this training together in 4 weeks. It was Carrier. And the next day we had 247 in Columbus. But so after the A2L fuzz came down, or the buzz, if you will, came down, and everybody was pretty much secure and realized the sky wasn't falling, they had a travel restriction, and I was sitting on my hands basically for 9 months, and I could have done that the rest of my life. They didn't care. I was still
Yeah.
building curriculum, doing webinars, and that nothing was, they weren't unhappy or anything like that. But I had to do more. My brain was kind of going to mush. I was getting bored. So I put the word out. I ended up taking Hardy's position, the Hardy position there. They never had a person like me as far as technical side. They do a lot more of the leadership
Yep.
skills, soft skills, business owners, how to, market margins and sales and that kind of stuff. So the service side was something they didn't have. And evidently the requests were coming from the distributors. Hey, do you have anything in your toolbox that, could help our counter people understand not just SKUs, but what does that TXV even do? So I went in
Yep.
and built the fundamentals up, and it was pretty successful. Actually, it was very successful. And, but it just wasn't a good fit for me. So I decided that I didn't really have a plan. This just happened, by the way, as you all know. I was there 9 months. This just literally happened a couple months ago, if not a month ago. But I gave my 4 weeks notice without having a job, and so I decided, well, I've got this curriculum I've built up over the years, and I'll just make a name up, and we'll start out small, and hey, we'll get through it, honey. We've done it before, and a weatherization program reached out over in Indiana, and a place that I used to work for as a contractor when all the stimulus money was going around, low income housing and stuff. So I already was very familiar with building science, if you will.
Yep.
So I understood the envelope, the CAS, all that stuff. So now I'm basically come full circle. Now, I'm not a contractor as a student anymore. I'm actually going to be one of their trainers, but more importantly, I'm building their curriculum up. So I'm able to do my own personal thing because it's only kind of a part-time gig, 30 some hours a week. So, and, a ton of vacation time that'll allow me to go for weeks at a time to do training too. So, that kind of brings us up to today where I'm at. So I know now you know everything about me.
Well, now I can just ask you a bunch of questions, right? Uh, well, and you've spent 35 years in the industry. What would you say was the role that has taught you the most? Was it installer, service tech, manager, salesperson, or trainer? Where do you think you felt kind of the first big growth spurt in this industry? Every system you install today contains more electronics than ever before, and while you can't stop the next power surge, you can help protect against it. The Diversitech Surge Protection Disconnect combines a code-required disconnect with integrated surge protection in one clean professional solution. It's a simple upgrade that helps protect expensive inverter boards, communicating controls, and ultimately your customer's investment, because replacing a disconnect is a whole lot cheaper than replacing a control board. Don't just install equipment, help protect it. Ask your local distributor about the Diversitech Surge Protected Disconnect today. TradeCrew, I'd like to introduce you to my friends over at LiveSwitch. If you haven't heard of them, they're developing a platform specifically for trades contractors and service professionals like yourselves. So picture this. Mrs. Jones calls the office. Her furnace is making some kind of strange sound. Normally, you would just have to roll the truck and go see what's going on. But instead, with LiveSwitch, you can jump on a video call right then and there with no app with Mrs. Jones. You can see things from her perspective on a fully functional video call. You can take screenshots, you can record, and you can deliver a different experience that no other contractor is giving their homeowners right now. If you're worried about it working with stuff you're already using, you know what? It integrates perfectly into Jobber, Service Titan, House Call Pro, any of the stuff that you guys are already using. It makes it a seamless transition to add this new tool to your arsenal. Go to hvacrnd.com, visit the vendor hub, set up your LiveSwitch demo today. You can also click the link down in the description below, or you can find the link to the demo in my bio. Thanks everybody for listening to the show. Check out LiveSwitch. I promise you it is an app for you. It gives you an ability to do something completely different for homeowners that no one else is doing right now. You guys won't be disappointed. Go schedule your demo today.
Service manager, hands down, because as you know, it's not like you're a cardiologist, but you deal with a lot of personalities, and you're not. I was a field service manager first of all, that ended up working into the office more and more, but not always. But no one's happy when their air conditioner goes out. Here's what I learned about the human mind, and I had to go to a lot of classes to learn about people on my own dime because I couldn't figure out what connecting the dots, what human mind was doing, and people will call you up, and I know you've seen this before. Everyone out there's probably seen it at 5 o'clock at night when you're getting ready to close, or 6, and say, hey, we're without heat. It's 10 degrees outside. And I'll say, okay, I'll get somebody out there. I'll head out myself, whatever. And no, just get us on the list. We've got a stove, or we got a fireplace, or it blew my mind. It's like, you're kidding me. It's -5 outside. They didn't care. But the minute the air conditioner went out, the very second, they didn't care how much they had to pay. People go crazy. I mean, there's a stat that I saw, that you'll appreciate, that how much the homicide rate goes up in the city of Chicago when it gets extremely hot, like close to triple, 90s or whatever. And so people get crazy when they get hot, right? So I learned the most. I learned to pick my battles. The first 6 months, I found myself arguing with everything. Like people would call, hey, your guy did this, your girl did this, you billed me too much, blah, blah, blah. I realized after 6 months, I was driving home one night, and that's what I told you about, started growing plants. That's when it started. I said to myself, I really did. I said to myself on the way home, I remember where I was at when I was driving. I said, Gillis, you're going to have to figure out a way to get this job under control, or you're not going to be here very long. And I enjoyed what I was doing. So I taught myself, self-taught, that, you know what, I'm going to start listening more and talking less, which you're not seeing that at all in this podcast right now. I've had too much coffee, but so I did. And I took my own advice, if you will, and I started listening. And you know what I found? Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes your company's wrong. And what I found, and I learned myself, self-taught, was that sometimes when you agree with them and you not only give them what they want, but go above and beyond that, like a free service agreement, or here's the filters, and I'm sorry, and I'll get your lawn fixed or whatever. It blows their mind, because they're looking to engage with an argument, because that's human nature. People think you're going to argue back with them. And when you don't argue back with them, it's like they get off the phone. I'm sure they're thinking, what the heck just happened? I like that guy, And so that was my big turning point in life, without a doubt, hands down. It taught me for the first time in my life something I should have done my whole life, and that is listen more and talk less.
How did that also change kind of your perspective on leadership moving into a service management role? Because before that, I didn't know if you had any kind of leadership experience before you came into the trades, but was that your first time where you started having to manage people as well as expectations of customers?
No, but so I was a union rep for 2 different locals, and I was a manager, well, right out of high school. Really, I didn't go to college. I was actually assistant manager at Wendy's at a very young age, and had to deal with people almost my age, basically. And I never had any sisters, so I had to deal with emotions and things like that. But I didn't handle that well. I mean, I didn't get fired, but I didn't handle it like I can handle it today. I mean, even people that maybe not even care for me or don't like me would be in the office when I'd be handling a disgruntled customer, and I'd get off the phone after. They could hear them yelling at me through the phone, and I would calm them down, and they were like, man, you're good at that. You're really, I became very good at defusing arguments, if you will. Sorry, my basset hound's barking. Someone came to the door.
Well, and I've got 3 little schnauzers up here in the office with me, so they're like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
There they go. At what point did you realize you enjoyed teaching and training as much as you enjoyed doing the work, out in the field yourself?
Again, back to the service manager thing. We started to grow, and we got more and more technicians on board. I didn't run as many calls as I used to, so I would jump in a lot during the hotter months and stuff like that, and jump in. Well, any but time it was dark out and somebody was on a rooftop, I was with them. I never let somebody I would never had anybody do something I wouldn't do. But what I'm getting at is I would take some quicker things that I could knock out really quick, because I was pretty decent at what I did, and I could diagnose things fairly quick. But so I would take, like, we had a lot of multi-housing, for example. And where I went out and did some people don't like showing other people how to fix things, because their fear is, and this started out my career like this. No one told you anything, because their thinking at the time was, if I share information with you, then I'm less valuable. That was the mentality when I first started. No one wanted to share anything with you. It was almost like, you go do this and I'm going to fix this. And that went through my whole life. But so now I'm in the position to teach. And I've got maintenance guys standing around me, and they're just talking and everything with a coffee. And, hey, can I get you anything? And I said, no, I want you to, how would you like to, after about 4 or 5 times, I picked it up real quickly. Hey, let me show you how to do this. So one day, really, my thinking was, if you want to be, the truth is, I wanted to bring more value, not only to the company, but to themselves and their family. And that's still my theory today. And I tell people in the classroom a lot of times, I'm not scripted, but more times than not, maybe every third class, I remember to say it. But now it's gotten to be every class. I'm really passionate about what I do, but more importantly, I want to bring more value to you and whatever family you have living at home. I want, and not just for the company you work for, but yourself, you as a person. I want to watch you grow. And I commonly say after that, always, the people, anybody that's been in my training will tell you this. I want to come back, and I want one day you to tell me that you're the service manager or you own your own business. That's, I need my pay, but that's more than money to me right now. I need my pay to survive, but that's really what I'm all about. I mean, that's, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't really, I wouldn't really have a lot. That's what keeps me going. People ask me, when are you going to retire? Retire from what? I love helping people. That's my thing.
When you get to see, what you poured into someone else. Hopefully you get to watch them pour it into someone else, or get to see what you poured into them, help them have a better life. And that's, like you said, that's, in a lot of ways, that's what we're all here to do anyway, or it's how we should all look at it. There's not enough people that are pouring into one another in this industry, or even in everyday life in general.
Yeah.
With the amount of people that you train every single year, what have you learned about how, I will say adults, but what have you learned about how people actually learn?
Mm-hmm.
Where have you seen, like, this is what really seems to work versus what they may have told me, this is how you do it, but I do it this way because it's what I've seen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've done hands-on, and I've done a lot of presentations, and I've done videos, and I've done like breaking up in groups and those kind of things, troubleshooting stuff and different electronic panels and that things. But the first and foremost is this. The only reason I have any success at what I do, it's not that I'm any smarter than anyone else, because all my friends are smarter than me. They'll tell you, maybe not, but I'm going to tell you that. And my niche is this. I don't ever speak over anyone's head. I teach like I like to be taught. I only have 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, or whatever. I'm back on the bus. I don't have a semester. So I don't like the phrase dumb it down, but I have to make it very easy to absorb.
Yep.
It's useless for me and them if I go in there and I talk over their heads, to where when they leave the room, we go, what the heck did he mean by that? And that happens all the time. When I was growing up, instructors loved going on the grease board and write all these formulas and stuff and look at it. And it was all about showing you how smart they were. That's not why I'm there. I want you to relate. And I often tell people, look, you know how I know this? Because I did it wrong myself. That's how I know. That's what I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And I'm just trying to help you to avoid that crash. But as far as learning, everybody learns differently. I could do 8 hours of a PowerPoint presentation, and people will come up to me and say, the best training I ever had. It just recently happened. And I've been blessed to be told that a lot of times, but recently, as I get more experience in the last few years or whatever, I get a lot more. Or I get somebody, like we talked about earlier, come up to the end of the class. This happens very commonly. Some 20, 30, 40 some year olds say, hey man, how do I get to be where you're at today? And I just tell them there's no secret sauce. I said, if you're talking about being a trainer, there was no elevator. I took the stairs. And what I mean by that is my secret sauce was I got up early. I stayed late when I was needed, and I treated it like it was my own. And that sounds sappy, but that's the truth. I never rubbed elbows or tried to throw anybody else under the bus to get myself moved up. Somebody took notice to my work ethics. Really, that's what it was all about. So, but I've shown people 60 years old how to do the Copeland mobile app, for example, at Copeland. When I came on board, I plugged into my phone, where the others prior to me, no offense to them, were like clicking the button saying, now, if you touch this will happen. And the next slide or whatever, I actually adapted to my phone and had them download the app. And I wanted them to interact with me. That way, if they're touching it, they're doing it as I'm there as a safety net, then they're going to learn it more. And then you always have that person, older or younger, more times older, that isn't electronically friendly, is afraid of that era, would come up. And so, and they trusted me right away because they could tell I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I always tell people that, I'm going to learn from you guys too. Everybody, I'm going to learn from everybody. So they'd come up at break time and say, hey, how did you do that? And I'll walk them through it. And then they feel comfortable with it. It just takes, so everybody learns at a different speed, right? And then also throw in the factor that I've never seen it not like this, whether it's 24 people in the room, 50 people in the room, whatever. When I ask people how much experience you have, I say less than 5 years, more than 10 years, more than 20 years. You're going to have 2 or 3 people up in the front row that's been in for 6 months and some guy or gal in the back with 42 years and everything in between. So you have to start out with the basic refrigeration cycle, what the components even do. And I tell the people that are more seasoned, look, bear with us. This is going to be a refresher for you, but I have to catch them up to speed. And I commonly say, you need a good foundation before you build your house. But as far as the learning, I've seen people gravitate to so many things. And I think as of late, everybody's become more accepted to learning online, e-learning, that kind of thing. I can tell you this right now. And I think we touched on this a little bit. No, this was another call. I apologize. Short is better today. Okay. Don't do some 1 hour video and expect anyone to sit there and watch that if they can have a 1 hour in-person training. You have to break that up in like even 5 minutes, 2 minutes. TikTok's the way to go now. I mean, I don't know if there's enough time there. I don't really use TikTok heavily, but that as using that as an analogy, everybody likes it fast. It's easy. They can do it between their calls. So shorter is better now.
We've been conditioned to that. I think, I'm sure training changed, and I watched, our training when I was in distribution on that side. I watched training change during COVID. I watched sales, everything changed in 2020 about how we do everything. It reset so many different things differently. I feel like it really reconditioned people to shorter attention spans for training and shorter attention spans for a lot of other things, because we burned so much time checking out these new apps on our phone, watching social media, and just scrolling all day. I feel like it took over during that period. So, these e-learning apps that are coming out now that have, shorter 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and it's an hour, but it's broken into, 6 different segments that are shorter, and you can do one segment at a time and kind of come back and forth into it. And I completely agree with what you're saying. That shorter that allows you to hit one, it may take a minute. Hit one, take a minute. You don't have to just sit there and be trying to focus 100% for an hour straight, because we've gotten to where we're terrible at it.
I just left a place recently where I was working at some time back, and I walked in, and one of their most popular courses was a 4-year. You hit a certain level at 2 years, and then you hit 4. This is a very long, drawn out thing. And they wanted me to look at it and say, what would you change? And I changed it literally. The first thing I said is, you got too much stuff here. And literally they said, well, pick out what you don't like and put in there what you like. And I basically, long story short, I got it down to a 2-hour prerequisite and a 2-day in-person training and a 2-day prerequisite and a one last webinar to send you on your way. For anything that, is there anything out there, some growing pains of anything, any questions as a group, so, and it was pretty successful. But it was, how when some people come from the outside and they haven't been there that long and things jump out, obviously this isn't right. They just, the people have been around it so long, they didn't realize, hey man, that's not the way to go. They didn't, and plus they never walked in my shoes either, They didn't know what it's like to be in a service tech. You're not going to do that. And really, sometimes you're working 12, 14 hours. You know that, on any level, no matter what you're doing in sales or whatever, when the season hits and you start baling hay, everybody's working a lot of hours.
All right, trade crew, here's something you may not know. New HVAC systems are using materials that don't have the antimicrobial properties they once did, creating a growing problem inside condensate drain lines. That white slime you've probably cleaned out dozens of times actually does have a name. It's called Zuglia. There's just something new for the day. And that's exactly what Drain IV was designed to fight. Drain IV continuously treats the drain pan and drain line to help prevent that slime buildup before it turns into clogged drains, system shutdowns, overflowing drain pans, and costly water damage. It also pairs perfectly with UV lights by treating the drain line, one place that UV lights can't reach. So whether you're protecting a customer's home or reducing nuisance callbacks, Drain IV is another smart tool to have in your toolbox, because water belongs in the drain line, not on your customer's ceiling. Alright, trade crew, commercial HVAC isn't getting any simpler. Have you ever been standing in front of a rooftop unit thinking, I know I've seen this problem before, I just can't remember where? That's where FieldMind comes in. FieldMind is an AI-powered service assistant built specifically for commercial HVAC technicians. Instead of searching random forums or hoping Google gives you the right answer, FieldMind gives you access to a curated knowledge library built exclusively for our industry. So you're learning from real HVAC experience, not internet guesses. And here's what really sets it apart. Every service call makes the platform smarter. As technicians solve problems and contribute what they learn in the field, that knowledge is added back into the system, helping the next technician diagnose problems faster and more efficiently. If you're ready to put another experienced technician in your pocket, download FieldMind from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and use the HVAC R&D promo code HVACRND30 to unlock your free 30-day trial. FieldMind. Every service call makes the next technician better. And talking about, having come from the field before you get into training, some people just went straight to training and didn't really have as much time in the field. What's one of the biggest mistakes that you see trainers make?
Personally, I think I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, and I've seen it a lot of times, not only as a student but as a trainer today. Simpler is better. Sometimes people really get into talking way in the weeds, and I understand it. Other trainers understand it. Everyone understands in that market, but it does nobody any good. And if you look at the end of the day, here's how I think about it. It's not about me. It's about you. It's about you. You people came here to get training. It's about you. I never think about myself. I don't even like to look at evaluations after a class. I talk everybody into going to QR codes because I really don't. It's not that I don't care. It's just how many times can you read like, man, you're the greatest trainer I've ever seen. You know what I mean? What I want to see is what could I have done better? What else would you like to see? That's going to help me grow. And I'm going to be a better teacher at the next class. And I can change that on the fly if there's something sticking out. Again, you don't know what you don't know. Somebody's going to see something that you've been around all your life and say, oh, that's really odd. Oh, you know what? You're right. That is odd. So it's really about making sure they are your customer. Okay. Focus on the customer. The customer's first. And I know that sounds sappy, but that's really, if you do that, you're going to be a great trainer. I mean, really, before you walk in, just say to yourself, I want to feel good when I get on the plane that I gave it all my all and they learned something. When boots hit the ground tomorrow, it's not a bunch of fluff. It's not a dog and pony show. You know what I mean? I didn't go deep into science with them and things they're never going to be able to use ever again.
What have you seen in terms of newer technicians coming into the field the last 5 to 10 years that's different than the newer technicians in previous decades?
Definitely your technology, the apps for sure. I mean, I had really nice digital gauges many, many years ago when they first came out because I had to have the new toy on the block. I was that kid.
That's what service and install guys want. We want the new toy,
they do.
Right?
And it hasn't changed, right? I'm sitting here with a whole bunch of field piece stuff right now with a whole kit and everything. And I love the bells and whistles and things. The technology's gotten so much better. I mean, we just like anything else, the technology. So they're more savvy on that. And they don't have to rely on tech support as much as they used to if they don't want to. Now, laziness isn't going to cure that. You know what I mean? If you're lazy and you don't want to work for yourself, you don't want to go fish, then you're always going to be like that. But for the people that come into my room because they pay high dollar, I mean, none of the training I did prior to the global companies I worked for, that wasn't cheap. I mean, if you came there, you weren't forced to come there. Somebody saw value in you. So when you come there, I'm seeing probably the best ones out there. And typically it's not the people that need the training that come. It's the ones that it's the ones that need the training that don't come, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But technology is really changed everything, as you know better than I do. Everything's electronic, everything's plug and play. I mean, equipment's getting smarter. And oh, by the way, we have a major shortage in the field at every level. Technicians, counter people, everywhere. So what's going to fill that gap? It has to be technology, you know.
Well, and do you feel a lot of that shortage is truly, shortage of available people, or is it lack of people understanding what they can do with a trades career, and people that are lacking the ability to teach these people what they can do in a HVAC or skilled trades career?
I think I think we've done. It's a great question. I think we've done a. I hope I don't make anybody mad. I think we did a horrible job years ago of promoting the trades.
I
There's a
agree.
couple things that jump out at me. And back when I was in school, we got out. If you didn't go to college, get a 4 degree. That's what they were pumping in your heads. You weren't going to do anything.
Mhm.
Take for example the story I told you about being laid off at the factory there. That ended up biting me, right? The
Yep.
kids in my grade that went to school, to college and everything, they still had jobs. They're selling insurance, they're doing this, they're executives, whatever they are. But so we just kind of didn't take pride in that and promote it. So those people, the plumbers and the pipe fitters and everything, the electricians, they all started going away. And some of these mom and pop places, maybe they didn't have a son or a daughter that wanted to take it over. Maybe they went to college and dad, that's not what I want to do.
Right.
And so you saw that dying out. The other problem we have is, and I'm just going to shoot people straight here because I've done it for a long time. I've told owners of companies when I walked in as that short stint of a salesman, Don, how do we get people hired? I said, you got to pay more money. We're not appreciated enough. There's not enough money. I mean, unions make good money, as we all know, but the regular people that are non-union don't make near enough money as they should. Now, my hope on that, to fast forward, is not to be gouging anyone here, but there's plenty of money out there to share the wealth to the technician. And when AI, you'll start to see it right now. There's a big drive of people saying, "Hey, let's look at vocational schools or trade schools now," because let's face it, I'm not a fear monger, but AI is going to take up some of these coding jobs and these things in
Oh, it already
hospitals. And
is. It already
yeah,
is.
it already is. No, it's hit my family already, and one of my daughter-in-laws. That's what she does, and they're cutting back, and she's still hanging on. But the point I'm trying to make is, I don't care if I just judged at Skills USA last week. Chefs, hairdressers, electricians, plumbers, HVAC people, automobile welders. Those things are going to be still needed, and it's growing, growing, growing. Now we just need to kind of get that money up because 10 years ago, 5 years ago, before everybody started breaking off these little camps like grit and different things and started training more people, it's starting at the baseline. We all know we had to get the tools in kids' hands. I didn't know if I was going to like HVAC. I got out there, like I told you earlier. I
Mhm.
didn't even know if I could do it. But once I started doing it, it's like, I can do this, But you have to put the tools in their hands so they get that fear factor out. But the other thing there we need to raise that money. We had a battle for a long time, like when the big push to raise money or the low, what do they call it? Wait, what's the wage thing? I'm drawing a blank here. Anyways, when the wages started becoming so high, and nothing against fast food. I started out in fast food. I was
Yeah.
assistant manager at Wendy's
Yeah.
when I was early. But when they started raising those wages to 10, $15, how do you compete with that? Now
Yeah.
you're not competing with, and how do you compete against a factory that's in a conditioned space and they got great insurance? And as well as I do, I had terrible insurance most of my life as a contractor. Why is that? You know what I mean? Because you're a small company. No one wants to give you a break. You have to be in a big group
Yep.
to get that kind of chance. So it's not for everybody. And I had to get up in attics and crawl spaces, and that's not for everybody. But we just need to do a better job in some of the areas, especially promoting it, that it's not a second option. It's really a first option. You know what I mean? Both of my sons know how to do HVAC. One of them's got his master's degree in clinical psychology, but he still knows how to hang ductwork and wire up an air conditioner. The other one owns his own business in HVAC, and he's a master license in that. So it's just different paths. But as my son Dylan always says, I got a backup plan, Dad. If people don't need therapy, I got something I can do.
that was, my family pushed the 4-year degree mainly because most of my family were doctors and pharmacists on my mom's side. My dad's side were all tradesmen. My grandfather was a plumber. My dad's an HVAC guy. He worked in the shipyard, or he was in the Navy as a boiler tender, and then got into shipyards and chemical plants and everything else, and then somehow ended up in the mountains of North Carolina as a refrigeration technician and built his own business. That's a whole other podcast. But Dad always wanted. He said, "I don't care if you get your 4-year degree. You're going to get your 4-year degree, but you're going to learn how to do something with your hands too." He said, "You're never not going to have something to fall back on." And he's like, "A trade you can fall back into at any time." He said, "No matter what happens." So, I was grateful for the fact that I was taught both ways coming up, and I paid for college working a trade, and then,
Yep.
but then moving into, and this is moving into distribution. I was able to move into distribution really at a kind of a more rapid rate of moving up that ladder because I had the trades background. A lot of kids come out of college and they get into a management trainee program, but they don't have a damn clue what HVAC or plumbing or electrical or any of this stuff is. They have to go and educate themselves about all of that first. So it may take them a couple of years to really get somewhere. I've been very lucky to be involved with workforce development with AHR for multiple different years. And one of the things that I've enjoyed the most is when I go and I speak to a group of kids, they're maybe in a trade school or doing different things, I feel like trade schools still are just teaching kids the only thing they can do is turn a wrench.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they need to understand that what they learn in the ability to turn the wrench is they learn the ability that they can go anywhere in this trade ecosystem they want. The problem is they never see it. Hell, I didn't go to a AHR the first time until I'd been in distribution almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I never even really knew what it was or anything about it. It just wasn't something the company I worked for talked about or, a lot of people that I knew about. And I went to that show in 2019 in Atlanta and I was like, holy crap. Like, how did I, even though I'm in distribution, how did I not realize the size of this industry? So, in starting this show a little over a year or so later, one of the things I always wanted to be able to focus on was to show other people, like, look, there's so much more you can do in the trade if you learn it. Maybe you're an installer for 10 years and your body's shot. I've seen it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we need counter people, just like you said. We need distribution people. Manufacturers need sales reps. You understand the customer that they're going after. You've been that person. Go over there. Help build the rest of the ecosystem out with people that truly understand it because you've been in the shoes of the people that it's trying to serve. So I think it's very important that we educate people that we're bringing into the trades that it's not just a first choice. It's really a springboard to doing so much more.
Yeah, no. And it's funny, you brought me back at the beginning. And after being laid off from two major factories with good benefits and watching what it did to the community and the whole family, all my family members, my mom, my godfather, my brothers, we all lost our jobs at the same time. What it gave me was the independence. It gave me, I remember coming home to my wife early in my career within the first year and saying, I'm going to make it in this. Now, I didn't know where I was going with it. I didn't know how far I was going. I might have installed furnaces and air conditioners my whole life, but I knew this, that they couldn't shut the doors on me anymore, that whatever I learned, I took with me. And everybody has to understand that. That's thinking about a career of the skilled trades. You take what you learn and you can do whatever you want with. I'm not an overachiever. I would love to tell you that I planned this all out to be a national speaker one day. This wasn't the roadmap. I just followed every door that opened, really. And I didn't know anybody to open those doors either. I'm not second generation. I had no ties. Everything I've developed or everything, has just been homegrown, organic. But again, it's like we talked about earlier, it's just your work ethics, Well, how far do you want to go? Because I still have friends that are very content and very happy, by the way, that are still running service. And there's nothing wrong with that,
No,
You said it
there's
well.
those people that's just what they love
That's
to
what they want to
do. I
do.
mean,
Yeah.
truly, that's the way it is. And you're going to have this. And you know what? If we don't have those people, this industry doesn't work.
Yeah.
We need those
No.
people that love to go fix and put stuff in, and
Yeah.
that's what they want to do.
And my wife loved working at the factory. She didn't want to be in management. I don't want to be in management. I've done that before. You know what I mean? I as I tell people now, the people I'm working on right now, I just want to be a good helper. I want to share what I know, because it's sad. I don't want to make myself sad here, but I'm closer to the end of my career than I am the beginning. So the trade has been very good to me. So everyone that gave me a shot and taught me something along the way, that's not my information. I might have made it better, but somebody gave that to me. So I need to give that back. It's really about handing that baton back. And that's really where I'm at today with training and, volunteering at Skills USA Nationals and sitting on some of the heating advisory boards in my area, like you talked about earlier. I do that quite often. Sometimes through my career, I'll reach out to a school that's going to be in the area where I'm going to be teaching at, and just a free bono, I'll go and do a class at night or teach them something. I was real big in A2Ls in that. I would go in and volunteer my time, and people appreciated that, but it's really, I benefit from that. People that really care benefit from those things more than even the people you're doing it for. They don't realize how much good it makes you feel. You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree. I'll ask you a couple of more training questions, and then we'll do the quick drill down, and then I'll ask you a couple closing ones.
Okay.
How important? I guess maybe how important is not the right terminology, but what role do you believe distributors, manufacturers should play in supporting educators for workforce development opportunities?
I thought I was going to get through this unscathed. So I was screaming it. I'm not even joking. I was screaming it 10 years ago, if not longer. I remember making my first comment when I started seeing all these people not going into the trades and people taking other avenues because it was easier and it was more pay. And I didn't have to get in the attic when it was 80 out, 80 degrees and 110 in the attic or 120. I thought to myself one day, and I told the vice president of the company I was working for, I said, you know what? And I'm probably going to catch heck for this, but I said, some OEM, now they're doing it. But back then it was unheard of. I said, some of these OEMs have made a lot of money. A lot of these distributors made a lot of money. It's time for them to put some skin in the game to help train some people. And it's not like I had a crystal ball or I'm smarter than anybody else in the world, but now you see all these training facilities at the distributors. I mean, they're nicer than anything at any school, and it's just amazing. All these people have programs now where they're bringing people in. I know not going to drop names, but almost every OEM has some kind of thing going on once a year where they bring the technicians in and try to promote. Because you know why? They need people in their plants too. They need engineers. They need people to understand that stuff. So everybody's starving for that. So they're getting back into it. Is it enough? Probably not. But is it going in the right direction? Yes, it is. But not too long ago, it was not like that. And I remember getting stared at in a meeting one time, like, you're crazy. What do they have to do with it? That's a whole different thing. It's like, no, it's part of what you say earlier, ecosystem, ecosystem. I mean, if you don't have people to buy your stuff, what are you going to sell, So you have to give back to that.
TradeCrew, let me ask you something. How many leads are you paying for right now that never actually turn into book jobs? That's where Chirp comes in. Chirp is built specifically for home service companies to help automate your follow-up through text, email, voicemail drops, and now AI-powered conversations, so your leads aren't sitting there going cold while you're out running calls. Because the reality is, speed to lead matters. If somebody fills out an online form and doesn't hear back quickly, they're already calling the next contractor. Chirp helps bridge the gap by instantly starting the conversation and keeping follow-up moving automatically. And what I really like is that it still feels human and not robotic. It integrates with platforms like HouseCall Pro, Service Titan, Field Pulse, Jobber, and more, helping you stay in front of customers without creating more office chaos. If you want to convert more leads that you're already paying for, head over to Chirp, automate the follow-up, and close more deals. Make sure to go to the HVACRD.com resource hub and book your demo today. and find out more about what is truly the most badass AI lead conversion system in the trades. Every service technician has been there. You diagnose the problem in 5 minutes, then you spend the next 30 wishing you had the right capacitor on the truck. The Diversitech Titan Flex capacitor lineup was designed to help solve that problem. From the FlexCap Junior for common fan motor replacements to the FlexCap 200 and 200X covering hundreds of single and dual microfarad combinations, you've got flexible options that can simplify your truck stock and help keep more customers running. Less searching, less inventory, less trips back to the supply house, and more first-time fixes. Ask your local distributor about the Titan Flex capacitors from Diversitech today. And I've had that same conversation about trying to get distributors in certain markets to support, even local tech schools. Because you go into a lot of these community colleges. I mean, I went into several different ones, and they're trying to teach these guys to come straight out in the field and know what they're talking about. And half the stuff they're working on is 22 still, or it's ancient 410 stuff. They're working on 90% furnaces that came out in the 90s. They're not seeing any of these newer inverter boards. They're not seeing mitigation boards. They're not seeing some of this stuff. And they've got what they need to learn the basic of the basics. But the technology that they're going into the field to work on now has changed so much in just the last 5 years alone that I feel like there needs to be some more from some distributors every now and then going in and, we've got some damaged equipment, go give it to the trade school. You're just going to write it off anyway. Help them out.
It's not that hard either. And, in all fairness to the people that own the equipment, when I was an outdoor salesman, I would once in a while step into the schools around Indianapolis, and I did it quite often. And I became friends with the instructor, and they would say, "Hey, would you mind coming in and talking to them? If nothing else, just tell them about your career." Because I kind of want to shoot them in the arm. I talk to them all the time. They get tired of hearing me. I go teach an hour or so, or just talk about my career path, what we just talked about, and it inspires them, I guess. But what I found was when I would go in these places, they, like you just mentioned, didn't have the nicest stuff. Like, man, I'd really like to have a mini split. That wasn't a hidden agenda. They didn't call me in to get a mini split, but I heard what they said. And I said, I don't think anything's impossible. Ask my wife, I'm a dreamer. I picked up the phone. I called, I won't say the brand. I called the guy up in the area, the rep, and he says, "Yeah, how many do you want? When do you want it?" He wants his tools, his equipment in your training center because they're going to get used to it with hands-on so they get the field.
Yep.
So, and now everybody's doing that.
And that's exactly why I said the distributors need to get involved, because if you want to help build your future customer base, get a couple pieces of equipment you sell in that local trade school, because then those kids are going to realize what brand they were working on, and they're going to be like, well, where do I get that when I get out of school? Or can I go to work for somebody that's selling that? You can help build your next future set of contractors for, a couple of pieces of equipment that you were going to throw in a dumpster.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we find a way to help get more distributors to work on a local level with tech schools and things like that. So I'll call that's me also taking a potential bullet for both of us in this show now.
Yeah.
but I think it's very important. And, I think, I was going to ask, what does success look like for the future generation of technicians and people in HVAC? But I think the success for them is going to be defined on how much we do to set the stage for them to be successful.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yeah. I mean, my goal is to just have people take pride in what they do. Look, everyone around you, no matter who they are, whether they work at a hospital, wherever they work at, you don't realize how much revolves. I'll just use refrigeration as an example here. Everything revolves around it, whether you're in your car, whether your food at the grocery store, your own house, your refrigerator, your cooling. I mean, people don't realize how much you rely on it, the cooling. I mean, novice people, people that don't think about it, they just automatically know that they are going to turn on or the food's going to be cold. But take that all away, and what do you have? And that would be it's really a shortage in our industry, and a lot of the industries is really a national crisis, to be honest with you. I mean, if you don't get those people to be able to fix these things, think about data centers not coming online.
Oh yeah.
What's that going to look like? Two-phase cooling. You're going to have all kinds of different things coming in, and somebody needs to be really knowledgeable. These aren't just go out there and beer can cold anymore. This is dialing everything in right to where it needs to be.
Yeah, no, beer can cold's been out the door for a while, whether
Yeah,
anyone wants to admit it or not.
yeah. I might have just aged myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, we used to have a sticker for the show that said "beer can cold never gets old," but it's unfortunately gotten old.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you. I'm trying out a new segment. It's called the Diversitech Drill Down, sponsored by our friends at Diversitech. I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions. We're going to try to do this in like a minute, maybe two tops. So
Okay.
short, just quick answers for these ones, and then we'll get to the last part of the show. So,
Okay.
favorite tool that you can't live without?
Drill, cordless drill.
Most overrated tool?
Maybe your the compression fitting for copper.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Installer or service if you had to choose one forever?
It's tough. I'm going to say service.
Something new every day.
Yeah.
Most common mistake technicians make?
There's a lot of things there, but I'm going to say to try to hit everybody at every level is listen to the customer.
Yep.
The customer will tell you a lot about what's going on, whether the wind's blowing heavy that day, it just started last night, the weather, Listen to them first before you ever start the program, then walk through the procedure sequence.
Sequence of operations, massive key. Talk about that all the time.
Yes.
Most misunderstood refrigerant topic right now?
Well, it'd be easy to say A2Ls, but I think but being training in CO2 transcritical booster systems for a long time. And I haven't been in that realm for a while, but that's very fascinating. It's not very well understood. And that's going to be a key factor for your larger supermarkets and what have you.
I know some good friends that do a fantastic job of training on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably know them.
Yeah, I'm sure you do too. One book everyone in HVAC should read?
I want to say I'm going to go back to my own refrigeration manual. It's right here. Fundamentals of HVACR. I think it's a solid book, and they have new editions coming out all the time. But I tell you what, some of that stuff doesn't get old. I mean, it doesn't change. Superheat, subcooling. You take the compressors, for example, at Copeland. The cavity of it hasn't changed. Physics doesn't change. Modulation does, but physics doesn't.
All right, last one. One piece of advice you wish somebody would have given 25-year-old Don?
Probably, I'm going to go back to the one I mentioned already. Listen more and talk less. That's the one I give out when people ask me advice, young or old or whatever. What advice would you give anybody? There's many a podcast out there that got the same answer. Listen more and talk less, because it was a big turning point in my life.
All right, so everybody, that was the quick new Diversitech drill down. That's going to get posted all by itself, so you have a nice little long clip there for you, Don. I'll take care of that. But thank you to our friends at Diversitech for that. A couple of final kind of closing questions. Being named one of the top 25 most influential educators in 2024 had to mean something. What did that recognition mean to you personally in terms of, people seeing your goal to give back to the industry?
Well, I was flattered. It's not why any of us do it for. It was the inaugural year is probably what it meant most to me about it. Now it's been going on 2 or 3 years, but the inaugural year was pretty special, because it was the who's who at the time. But quite honestly, I don't want to say I'm different. I told you earlier, I need my money. I have to get my money to pay my bills and stuff like that, but I would do it for free. And I mean that sincerely. I mean, the whole heart. Anybody that knows me knows that's true. I'm not what I want to say. I'm very domesticated. I'm not a real materialistic person. You know what I mean? In all honesty, too, and nothing against the organization ESCO, but I was the only one of 25 that didn't show up to accept their award. Why? Because I was doing a lot of training at the time, so I had to pick and choose what I wanted to do. And then people were calling, people needed training, and I had to do that. So, in fact, I just hung the plaque that they gave me up. My wife did finally, because it had been laying next to my desk here since 2024. She just hung it up like a month ago on my wall. So it meant a lot to me, but um, I get, I mean, it was a great feeling. It's a great feeling to be recognized. It's great to have on your resume. It's great to people to, see that and they say, and I'm proud of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm very proud of it. Hey, if I wouldn't have been nominated or vetted, my feelings probably would have been hurt, because I was knocking out a lot of training back then. I mean, I was everywhere, and there was, I mean, thousands of people knew who I was. I mean, I was moving around. I was flying literally 40 weeks a year. It was not nonstop and everywhere.
What motivates you the most? And I feel like we've kind of answered this, but what motivates you the most to continue teaching after all these years?
It's just that aha moment look, that light bulb moment when you see somebody. We talk about this every once in a while, friends of mine, and I think it drives all of us. It's that moment you're talking about something, like I said earlier, not talking over their heads. You're talking so they absorb it easily and they can actually utilize it. It's when you see two or three people, guys and girls, start shaking their head and smiling in the room, and they light up, or they go down real fast and you see the whole room, which just happened to me recently, which was incredible, because 3 tech support people were in the room and just bend over and start writing everything down, taking notes. It's like, that is so flattering when people start taking notes of everything you say, because it causes you to pause and really let them digest that and realize, okay, I just hit them right there. That's sunk in.
Last two questions.
Yeah.
First one is, what does leaving the industry better than you found it really mean to you?
It means everything to me. There's days I wake up and I don't know how I got here. Like we talked about earlier, I didn't set out to do this. And the fact that I can rub elbows with some of the people that I used to read books about, some of them that are on this shelf right here, some of the people that I watched videos on or represent big OEMs, the fact that they would want me in that arena and ask me to come there, it's amazing. I don't feel this way, but others feel this way, that I help the industry out somehow, some way. I don't see it. You get imposter syndrome and you don't think you're really all that in a bag of chips. At least I don't. You know what I mean? I'm still the guy that fixes air conditioners, but I'm very happy to be part of that conversation and that I was able to help people along the way. And whether it's this or whether it's life in general, leave it. I just like to leave things better than they were when I found it. I mean, you get on the plane and you didn't accomplish anything. What does that really mean? You know what I mean? But if you got on the plane, you're like, man, remember that girl in the row 2 that her face so lit up, or, you know what I mean? They were excited to come up, wanted to shake your hand afterwards. I mean, or the applause or whatever. And just touching people is a good thing. That's just who I am. And I'm sure a lot of people are like that.
No, that's the truth. I've had not as many of those experiences as you have had, but I've had some of those, seeing the light bulb come on, and it's a fantastic feeling. Um, for somebody listening today who's burned out, frustrated, questioning whether they belong in the trades or not, what would you tell them?
I was only going to stay in my position when I started at that Lennox dealer for a month until I found something better. And I cracked my head on a couple floor joists in a crawl space, and I got my face in a spider web, and I burnt myself soldering. And I kept thinking to myself, "You're only making $8 an hour now, and but you're carrying all this knowledge with you, and it's going to get better. Everything's going to get better." And that's the truth. It really does. Every day that you go through, it's the hardest times you go through that you learn the most. I mean, everybody knows that. If you don't know that, you're missing the big picture, because everything I've learned are those nights I stood in front of a furnace for 3 hours long with somebody with no heat looking over your shoulder, and your son's playing high school football game right now in his senior year. Those things you never forget. Those are your learning moments. You know what I mean? So it's not an easy out. The trades aren't easy. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. You know what I mean? So don't give up because, you don't realize what the future looks like, because it's the sky's the limit. I'm living proof of that. The sky's the limit. Like I said earlier, I didn't map this out. I literally followed the bouncing ball,
Well, Don, thank you so much for today. If anyone wants to work with you, get in touch with you, obviously I'll get some information and put it into the resource hub. But, are there a few ways of getting in contact with you that you'd like to talk about or share for just a minute before we wrap up?
Yeah. Probably the easiest way is to go to the website, gilliscoach.com, or you can email me directly at D as in Don, Gillis Coach at outlook.com. So it's dgilliscoach@outlook.com. And I'm a frequent flyer on LinkedIn. I think since I've been a service tech on up to now, I've got over 20,000 followers. I still have customers reach out to me and tell me their husbands died and they knew how much I liked them and stuff like that. So I'm always sharing knowledge wherever I can, and or anything that's going on in my life in the industry.
Well, Don, thank you so much. I wish you nothing but success in your new venture with everything that you're doing. If there's anything myself or anyone in the trade crew, we can bend some arms and bend some ears and see what we can do to help, please let me know or them know. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will catch you soon. Peace. And that's another one in the books, Trade Crew. If you enjoyed today's conversation and found value in it, I'd really appreciate it if you'd follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. Leave a 5-star rating, drop a review, and let me know your biggest takeaway in the comments. Every like, comment, review, and share helps me reach more of the incredible people who make this industry great. Don't forget to subscribe to the HVAC R&D and Ramblin' Rhino newsletter on Substack so that you never miss a new podcast episode or article drop. And while you're there, be sure to check out the HVAC R&D resource hub for trusted tools, products, and resources for both your business and your life outside of the trades. If you've got a story worth telling, a lesson worth sharing, or you're helping move the skilled trades forward, I'd love to have you on the show. Head over to HVACRnd.com, fill out the guest questionnaire, or connect with me through any of the social media channels. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, keep serving, and remember, when the trade crew grows, the entire industry gets stronger. Ramblin' Rhino out. Peace, y'all.